Hello.
Okay, so I'm wondering if I'm trying out all new kinds of equipment that makes the whole experience better, So is the sound good? People that are listening, please let me know. Can you hear us well? Is everything good? Should we go ahead and start? Amazing. Okay, so I'm just going to stop because I'm going to record it and then post it again. So whoever didn't get a chance to watch now can tune in another time and have a listen. So I shall go ahead. So today's topic is a beautiful mind. The mind is a beautiful, powerful tool. Perceptions of self are developed over time and are subjective, especially when we're talking about beauty. And in today's society, we critique ourselves so much, especially with social media and having these unhealthy ideas of beauty. And we compare ourselves to unrealistic images. And some of us are really crippled by anxiety and stress because of this. So how can we use our minds to feel better, to feel more confident, and ultimately more happy? Is there a way to connect our inner beauty and improve confidence by redefining definitions of beauty to create a more positive perception of self? So today I'm talking to the beautiful Anna Lancaster Hedman, who is an experienced clinical hypnotherapist and RTT expert. So Anna, welcome to the Beauty Show.
Hello, thank you for having me today. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. We got there in the end with all the technical issues. Gosh. So Anna, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, okay, so I work, my name's Anna Lancaster Hedman, and I work with a pioneering type of therapy. It's developed by a lady called Marissa Peer, and it uses all of the fundamental principles of NLP, CBT, hypnotherapy and psychotherapy in a very unique way, which kind of creates rapid, permanent change. And it's essentially practical neuroplasticity. So it uses, it changes your negative behaviours and beliefs, and it changes them to positive ones, which it often gets changed in only one session, but from 1 to 3, I normally work with them. But my actual story, so I used to actually work in marketing prior to this. So I used to run a marketing agency and then a luxury property agency too. But years ago, I got interested in the mind because I got really sick and I had a spinal leak. And I was about 30, so 10 years ago. And it was horrific, and I was in so much pain. And they gave me 3 operations and nothing cured it. It was like an elephant was standing on my head all the time. And my mum gave me a book, very entry level on the mind, called The Secret, there's a lot on it about healing and the placebo effect and actually training your mind to heal. And that was kind of my entry. I did a lot of work on it, started to look at different authors, and a guy called Joe Dispenza in particular. And I had a 4th operation after that, and then I healed. And obviously I had the operation, but I had also put in those mental things, and it helped. So I then got really interested in the mind, and I'd always been fascinated by it in a marketing perspective, because that element of making people feel that they're missing out on something, selling them something that they don't necessarily want. So the psychology of the mind always fascinated me, and then the healing, and then I discovered RTT, and it worked on myself. And it's very different to talking therapy, it works with a lot of different people. But for me, I always felt I was going in there, I was sitting down on the couch and being asked, how do you feel? And pretty much it was always like, not too good, that's why I'm here. And I spent lots of time, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And then I did an RTT session, and it was life-changing for me. And then I put everything together, I studied, I qualified, and then took myself forward, and love it, haven't looked back. And, it works on everything. I mean, confidence and self-esteem is something I work with a lot, especially within women, within men too, but it's a big one for women. And depression, anxiety, stress, they've skyrocketed since COVID. Everything, phobias, eating disorders as well, they've gone through the roof, sadly. But anything, you know, OCD, relationship issues with family, with loved ones, pain, corporate performance, kind of any behavior you have that you don't like or isn't working for you, we can very quickly change.
Right.
That's kind of my story.
Okay. So I know Marissa Peer is all over social media because she's the founder of RTT.
Yes.
And it is becoming really popular because of its success and because you only really need 1 or maximum 3 sessions. So it's not like talk therapy where it's repetitive and you don't really get the answers that you need. So would you say that RTT is powerful because sometimes willpower isn't enough?
Yeah, I think the difference is like that you have 2 minds. So you have your subconscious mind, which is your habits, your behaviors, your feeling mind. And then you have your conscious mind, which is your logical thinking mind. And your subconscious mind, which is your habits, your behaviors, how you kind of feel about anything. That's predominantly created between the ages of 0 and 7. So a really primitive time. And in those years, your fundamental years, you're at a lower brainwave state. You're at something called theta, which is, you know, you have beta, which is your conscious mind, so it's lower than consciousness, and it's real imagination. And in that age, you know, when children are playing with mud pies, they think they're real. When they get on a broomstick, it's a horse. They have these beliefs, and that's when they create all of their belief system. So, for example, you're told you're the smart one, or you're the clever one, and you're the clever one, same thing. You're the beautiful one. You're told, you're labelled with different things, but you don't have logic to differentiate between what that actually means. And I always use a very quite simple example of my son when I'm with him and I'm on my mobile phone, and he's like, "Mummy, mummy, mummy, come speak to me." And I'm like, "Hold on, I'm just doing my email for work." An adult, you would know logically that, you know, I'm just doing my email for work. But to a 6-year-old boy, a 7-year-old boy, he doesn't know what an email is. He doesn't know what work is. All he knows is that I'm the most important person to him, and he should be the most important person for me. But if a bit of plastic is, then he starts to question himself from a very basic, primitive level. He can question his lovability. Is he good enough? On one instance, that probably isn't enough to, you know, really frame a belief. But if then, say, I don't pick him up from school, or I forget to pick him up at gates, or I pick him up late from friends, or a friend at school says he's crap at this or whatever, those neural pathways build. And when you create a behavior and you build on it, you create your belief, your strong belief. And so he could grow into later life feeling unlovable, not good enough. Hopefully that won't be the case.
Right.
But yeah, you create these like belief systems from late zero logic, and you carry them through into your later life. So you can have this whole belief system you created when you were 4 and you're playing it out when you're 40. And the relevance of this, when I say your subconscious mind, we were talking about it in your conscious mind, is with your subconscious, your behavior during the day, 95% of your behavior is your subconscious mind. So you're running on a program, only 5% is your logical mind. So you can like wake up in the morning and be like, okay, these are my desires, these are my dreams, I want to get up, I want to do this with my day. And then as soon as you go into it, you go into autopilot, you go into your habits, you go into your behaviors, and you behave in a certain way, you act in a certain way. And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, why didn't I do that? It's because you've gone into your program that was created not by you. It's not going with your desires and dreams. It's going with what your parents said or your friends said, or that like years ago. Right. So then with RTT, sorry, this is a very long-winded way to get to this. With RTT, because we use hypnotherapy, we go down to that theta brainwave state. And when we go in there, we can find the root cause of your issues. So anxiety or stress or bulimia. There's a root cause that will have worked on that trigger. And then you go to the root cause, and then we can interrupt it. And we can change it. And it was relevant when you were 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or later in life when it might have occurred. But we get to the root cause, we change it, and then we reinstall new beliefs. So we use the subconscious mind, so we can change that feeling mind.
So to tap into that feeling mind and to things that happened to you as a child, do you need to be able to remember specific points in your childhood, in those first 7 years, that may have contributed to being these sort of triggers for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the weird thing is everyone always thinks they know when they're going to go back to. And sometimes it can be a scene that's like totally irrelevant. It's not always 0 to 7. It can be older than that. That's just a trigger or a root cause. But often the scenes we think, someone, like I had someone come to me and I can't remember what she thought it would be. She thought it'd be something quite dramatic that really caused her issues. And it was something as simple as it started off with like not that bullying's not inconsequential, it's quite big, but it was comments that were said to her at school that as an adult you'd look at and brush off and be like, that's, but as a child, that criticism, that kind of rejection, it really imprints you. And then you know, rejection is the hardest thing for any of us to deal with, as young as being at school, but as old as we are, you know, when you're young or when you're old, it's still that primitive fear, like rejection. You know, in the tribal times, if you were rejected from your tribe, it was equal to death. You wouldn't have the food, you wouldn't have the shelter, the animals could get you, it's death. Whereas nowadays we still have that same reaction to rejection. Yeah, it's not going to equal death, but it's still, it can be the most painful thing that we go through. I don't know where I was going with that. I think it was the scenes, wasn't it?
It was the scenes. Because what I'm curious to know is sometimes in therapy, the therapist will ask you to go back to a specific moment that you can remember that made you feel a certain way, so that then you can sort of reprogram your mind to think differently about it. But what do you say to people who don't even know what that could be, because they don't even have memories of their childhood because it was so traumatic that they've blocked it out?
Yeah, it's not done in a conscious way. So I do it within a subconscious. So we do it in a hypnotized state, and you'd be surprised. Your subconscious mind will bring forward the exact right scenes, and if it doesn't bring the right moment or the right root cause, and I go through a few of them, I will then work on feelings. Or if it's always when you're in there, you're not reliving it, you're reviewing it. And I've had some clients with some horrific stuff that's happened to them, and if that kind of does go there, I will take it down so it's on a TV, so they're distanced from it. I'll make the characters like Mickey Mouse characters, or change it around slightly so it's not scary to them. It's not something that they wouldn't want to handle. And sometimes if it is something, I've never actually had it when they haven't come up with anything they've been unhappy to work with. I think it's always been able to reduce it down to a place where they felt comfortable.
I think that's a really good way of putting it, because a lot of people might be too scared or apprehensive about doing something like this, but then the way that you phrased it, it's not reliving it, it's reviewing it.
Yeah.
I love that, because it just makes it so much more accessible or palatable, you know. So so I wanted to keep it sort of centered around beauty and confidence, and so I have some questions, which, as luck will have it, is nowhere to be found.
That's okay.
I was sewed together. So basically RTT is reprogramming the mind. So it's a hybrid therapy. Yeah. And if we put that in the context in terms of beauty and confidence, how do we learn how to love ourselves, or, you know, sort of see our self-worth, or you know?
Well, let's start with self-esteem, which a lot of people don't know exactly what its definition is. And self-esteem is what we think and feel and believe about ourselves, and it's our own opinion of ourselves. And we come into the world, we come into the world as a baby, and it's perfect, and we're full of self-esteem and inner confidence. You don't see a baby putting their hands up against their face saying, "Don't look at me, don't look at me." Babies love to be looked at. They love to look, they love the attention. So we come whole. And then things happen through our lives, like I was saying, that kind of chip away at that, and they take away our whole. And then we look for three things. So we look at three myths. So we start to think that something out there will fix my self-esteem. So we start to think that if I buy better clothes, or if I have a better job, or the more beautiful I am, then I will have everything. But the thing is, it's not an external thing. When you have those things, there's still a hole there. You can buy as many handbags, but you're never going to feel amazing. You still feel lost. I mean, I've been there when I was going through my divorce. I had all the things I could have had in the world, but I didn't have what I really wanted at the time, which was love. But even so, I didn't feel that good about myself. And it's that thing that nothing can make you feel better. No one thing. And so nothing you buy can. You get it with celebrities. Celebrities have everything they want in the world. They have money. They have the fame, which people think people want. They have the looks, the cars, the clothes. But intrinsically, a lot of celebrities they're not that happy. A lot of them don't have high self-esteem because,
Right.
well, they go a lot of, I mean, I work with a lot of actors. I've worked with a lot of singers and musicians, and a lot of people are attracted to that because they get the validation on stage, or they get that feeling because people will give them that love, and they're often some of the unhappiest people I've worked with. So it's
interesting you should mention that, because last week I had a friend in South Africa who is an artist, Rick, who passed away on Wednesday morning from suicide.
Yeah.
And again, we talk about people who we think have everything, the beautiful wife, the beautiful children, the great career, and they struggling with depression and feel like there's no other way out other than to take their own lives. So I don't know the full story, and I wouldn't even begin to imagine what it must have been like. But talk me through how you can stop yourself from getting to the point where it feels hopeless.
Oh gosh, that's a really difficult one. I mean, it's a very sensitive subject, and I think it's that thing of connection. I mean, looking at depression and that stage of that, there are key things, and actually we're talking about that now. One of the key things that really affects you and really causes depression is lack of connection is one of them. Another one is not following your heart's desire, and the third is harsh, critical words you say to yourself. And those three things combined, they create a level of depression. And then, you know, if you don't get the help or you're disconnected, then sadly it can get to that stage. But I think there are so many places out there where you can get help with talking therapy and that. But I think where was I going with this? With the harsh critical words, which is where we are worse to ourselves. It's that element of, you know, you wake up and imagine you're with your best friend. You wake up with your best friend and they go into the bathroom with you, and you're getting ready, you're brushing your teeth, and they're like, oh my God, you look hideous this morning. Look at that spot. Look how terrible you look. And then you go and put your clothes on, and it's like, oh God, you look so fat today, you look terrible. Then you go into the kitchen, you make your breakfast, and they're stood there going, did you really just make yourself that? You're hideous, that's fat. And then you go on your way to school or the commute, as we're older now. You're on the commute, and they're like, you know, you trip up, they're like, you're an idiot. Who trips up on the commute? And then you get to the office and you make a mistake, and they're like, oh my God, you're an idiot, you're an absolute idiot. Then on the way home, and they're doing that to you all day. My guessing is they wouldn't be your best friend for very long.
Yeah.
But that's us. They're the things we say to ourselves all the time, and our brain doesn't know, our mind doesn't know if we're saying it or someone else is saying it. And when you're saying all those things repetitively, it's like a habit, and it goes into your subconscious. And in fact, like some psychoanalysts, they say, I think it's like 70% of your subconscious, and that is self-deprecating, is really self-sabotaging, negative behaviors. So, and we tell ourselves the worst things. So a very simple start is not being so harsh and critical with yourself. You know, if you mess something up, you're not an absolute idiot. You've made a mistake. Soften the words you say to yourself. You don't have to go around saying I'm the best person, although why not? Why not say you're the best person? You're your own best friend.
Right.
But like, soften those words. Just, you know, say, you know, God, I didn't do well, do better next time. Or, you know, God, you've got a spot, maybe use some more face cream. Or, you know, just soften the
Be
word.
kind to yourself, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, we always say
Yeah.
be kind to others, but actually be kind to yourself. Use
Yeah.
those words, and it's more than, you know, with things like that, affirmations are very good. You know, in repetitive saying, you know, I mean, I have a list of affirmations I say every day habitually, because I do believe it goes in. I mean, when you're in the shower, what else are you going to do apart from smell the shower gel and go, "This smells nice"? Sit there and go, you know, say, I don't know, I'm confident, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm kind, I'm lovable, I'm successful. Reel off all the good things that you are. And if you do that daily, it will start to go in. It's kind of like that fake it till you make it mentality, isn't it? When you say you're happy and, you know, first day you're not happy. If you say it enough, it will go in your subconscious and you'll start to release it, you start to feel it.
Yeah. So I'd just like to repeat that so that whoever, you know, was driving or not focused on what we were saying, that's a very key point. So if we can think of 3 things that could maybe cause someone to feel helpless, we're talking about a lack of connection, negative self-talk, and those negative, critical, harsh words that we say to ourselves. So we need to stop those 3 things. And then to help us to deal with these things that we might be feeling, negative feelings that we might be having, affirmations work really well. So can you just give us 3 affirmations to help us get through a time when we're not feeling that great about ourselves?
Okay, I mean, a good one I use a lot is I have phenomenal coping skills. Even when we think we don't, when you say I have phenomenal coping skills, it can work with so many different things. I use with my anxiety, my patient's anxiety, I'm calm, I'm composed, I'm in control. I'm calm, I'm composed, I'm in control. And they, you know, they really, they do calm you down. I use them a lot I use various different words because repetition comes a lot into the audio I do at the end. So when I have done the session, the RTT session with my clients, at the end I do what is called a transformation. And the transformation, essentially, after we've worked out where the root cause came from and we've taken out those old beliefs, it's this new belief system that you want about yourself. And with what I do, what is so different to a lot of hypnosis or a lot of different types of therapies is that it's very much exactly what that person wants. And it's because essentially our reality is made out of the words we say to ourselves and the pictures we make in our head. So, and I use different examples of this that work. So, for example, I'll step back a bit because this won't make a lot of sense, but we're here, like our mind is there and it's got one job, and it's survival. It's not there to make us happy. It's for survival. It's to take us as far away from pain and as close towards pleasure as possible. And how does it know what is painful or pleasurable? And it knows because of what we tell it, the pictures we make and the words we say. So, for example, a holiday. This is a very basic example of this. A holiday, a beautiful destination like the Maldives. There's one person who's about to get on that plane, and they're picturing a coffin in the sky, and they're saying, "I feel trapped. I feel I have no control. I feel that it's gonna crash and I'm gonna die." That's one vision. Yeah. And then the other person is about to get on that plane, and they're thinking, well, this is me. I'm thinking, I'm going to the Maldives. I'm getting on a beach. I'm going to have a suntan, drinking a margarita. That's my vision. It's exactly the same end result. It's exactly the same event, but the 2 experiences those 2 people are having are completely different. And all it is the pictures they're making and the words they're saying. And that's something where someone's adding extreme pain to something pleasurable. But the same thing we can do as well. So looking at something different, like a needle. So when you have an injection, obviously it hurts, it's painful, it's quite a painful thing. So that makes sense to have a bit of a fear or a phobia around it. However, you get people who add immense pleasure to that. So you get women who will have Botox, they'll have needles all over their face because the pictures they're making of themselves is that they're going to look amazing, they're going to look crease-free, that's their vision. Or someone who loves tattoos, and they will sit in a chair for 8 hours having their whole arm needled. And because the pictures they're making, the things they're saying to themselves is, I'm going to look great with this massive snake on my arm, or whatever it is they have. Right. Or you get heroin addicts, and they'll put an injection in their eye. It's like, because their pictures are so strong with the pleasure they're getting out of that. So it's the pictures you make and the words you say that very much will create your own reality. I can't remember where I went. I do this a
So
lot.
what you're saying, Anna, what you're saying is that perception is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely is. Perception of how you perceive anything. And you can switch this. You can do this in your daily life. If you're, you know, you can, it's that element of like looking on the bad side or looking on the good side. If you find positive people who are happier, if you know what I mean, because you're going around, you're always looking for the good in things. And
Yes.
kind of they're the stories you're telling yourself, and they're the pictures you're making. You're looking for something positive, and they're generally people who are happier.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's why I include things about the mind and the body into my beauty show, because I really believe that beautiful people are happy people. So if you're happy, you look more attractive, people are more attracted to you. Yeah. There's a sort of inner glow that you have when you're just sort of at peace with yourself and comfortable with who you are. So there's real value in that. Yeah,
there absolutely is. And there's, you know, we're going back to like self-esteem and the different lies we tell ourselves. It's like, not only is it that something will make me better, it's also like someone can come and fix your life. Because when we also do this thing of when with our self-esteem, we'll put it on someone, we'll put it on something in that way. So, you know, you're at work and you want, a boss gives you a promotion, or a man who gives you all his love and attention, or parent who gives you all your praise, and or you give that power to someone else to increase your happiness, if you know what I mean, and increase your self-esteem. Yes. But if you do that, it's great, you get the job, but then that boss could fire you. So you're giving your self-esteem, you're giving your happiness in the power of someone else to control, and that's like a really dangerous thing. Whereas if you give yourself your own, you give yourself your own validation, your own critique, your own, you have your own self-love essentially, then you're not giving it to someone who can take it away, because you've got that yourself. And happy people, you know, happy people tend to give themselves, they tell themselves nice things, they do nice things for themselves, they don't necessarily put their happiness in someone else's hand, because when you do that, it's quite a dangerous place to be. Right.
I know I've been guilty of that before, thinking that, okay, I'll be happy when. Yeah. And that goalpost constantly moves, because when you get that thing that you thought you always wanted, suddenly you want something else, and then it's like, I'll be happy when this next thing happens. Yeah. So it's almost the same as the whole concept of chasing the dragon. When, you know?
It totally is, because if you think, you know, the past is in the past and you can't do anything about it, and you get so many people who live in the past, who think about the past, but you can't. That's your thoughts, you're choosing your thoughts, and you're living in the past. Whereas the best moment to be, the future hasn't happened yet, but you're present. If you stay present in your present moment, you can make the most change. You can do. We don't tend to do that very much. It's why, like, mindfulness as well. People live in a world where, at the moment, like, you know, we're on our phones all the time, or we're looking. No wonder we're so influenced by stuff, because you look on Instagram and people have every filter under the sun, everything. And I was really like, I don't want to do that. I'm not putting a filter on myself. I'm not going to kind of do that. But then when everyone else is doing it, you're kind of like, oh, well, I look terrible. So if I don't do that. And it's like,
exactly.
Yeah, because you just kind of get into that stage of that, you know, you don't get in the present moment, and you just, I don't know where I've gone with that as well. I love going up and down the present moment. Just thinking about Instagram. Well done, Anna.
Anna, you're so funny.
I was like, what do I do? Yeah, I do, like, you look at people and you can't help but compare. And when you do that, I mean, I'm quite a mindful person. Like I you know, I do a lot of meditation.
I mean, your name's even Hedman. I mean, it couldn't have had a better name.
I know, I was destined to go into therapy.
Destined.
Destined.
Actually, I posted a video, a reel just before this interview, talking about we're going to be going live. And for a moment, I was going through the different filters. And I thought to myself, like, I don't want to look like an alien. I don't want to have all these weird sparkly things all over. I just wanted a filter that sort of smoothened things out and just made it look like, you know, airbrushed. But I couldn't find anything. So I ended up doing the video with no filter. And that gave me anxiety, thinking, oh my God, everybody uses a filter. No one wants to see wrinkles and bags. So you need to find a way. But again, it's part of this social media sort of pressure to, make you conform to this idea of beauty.
Totally. And it's like that thing that I saw, it was ages ago, I saw this Instagram video, and there's this young boy who was about 7 or 8, could have been 9 or 10, but he was having a bit of a rant because these kids had taken the mickey out of his trainers. And he was the most astute, intelligent young boy, and he was saying, but they're just trainers. I like these trainers. They might not be the most expensive, but I like them. They suit me. What are those boys going to do when they're trainers? They don't have them. What are they going to be? Who are they going to think they are? They're not going to be anyone, because what matters is what's in here. And I was like, Jesus, that boy knows what he's
talking about. What an amazing job his parents have done. Wow.
Yeah. I was, very impressed. But it is that level of like, if you think you need the bag to feel good, or the clothes to feel good, or the filter to feel good, it's like that level of self-esteem within inside you is so, and it's how we all kind of grow, it's so low because of our environmental factors. You can see why people don't feel confident in themselves, because if you're growing up, I imagine it's worse for generations like, I'm 41 now, but
it's fine. I'm older than you. It's fine.
When I was their age, like when I was, like up until even 15, I didn't have the internet. We didn't have phones or anything, let alone then now. I mean, my son, he's on TikTok. He's 8 years old now, and he's like on TikTok. He's on everything. He has such a bit availability to everything, and they use filters as the norm and everything, and it's just, I don't know, I feel that they've kind of lost a part of the innocent. Like, I can't imagine what it will be like for them growing up in 10 years, if you know what I mean.
Right.
They've not grown up with any level of they've not been sheltered, if you know what I mean. Like, we didn't we had TV, which was, interesting that, but I just, sorry, I'm kind of speaking from my thoughts, just that it must be insane to never have that real level of normal, like of just what reality is. Because they'll always have put a filter. They're getting to the stage now with the metaverse. They'll create their own avatar, which will be.
I know. We've substituted sort of socializing for social media. Yeah. In my view. Yeah. There's a real shift where kids are not outside enough. They don't get sunshine. They're just sitting in front of a computer screen. Yeah. So the good thing is that they're super tech savvy, and the world's moving towards that, but then they are becoming less social, where parents are really struggling to get their children to want to be outside. I don't think kids of today even know what it is to climb a tree or to play a made-up game in the garden. It's like you just don't do it anymore.
It's funny, actually, yesterday, because I went with my son to meet some friends, and they had their sons there, and we were at Hyde Park, and they were just kind of running around. Well, they weren't running around, they were kind of at a bit of a loss because they didn't have their tablets. We were like, just go find things to do. And we left them for a while, and they were being a bit moody because they didn't really have anything to do. And then within about half an hour, they found a tree trunk, and they were on the tree trunk, and they were batting it with things. And it was so refreshing to see, because normally there's none of that. There's there's kids on tablets, and that's it. But they kind of were like at a loss of what to do when they weren't instructed or had their tablets. Whereas when I was young, I'd leave the house at like 9 in the morning, return home at 5 in the evening, and I would have been out all day running around doing whatever. I just don't have that anymore. It's,
no. Yeah. So I want to get back to unpacking how self-praise can help us to feel better about ourselves. So that I want to give the listeners, viewers, something tangible that they can take away with them as a lesson for today on maybe 3 things that self-praise can help us feel better about ourselves. How self-praise can help us feel better about ourselves.
I mean, self-praise is giving yourself your own validation. It's giving yourself your own validation. It's not, your brain also will take that in, because it's not like when someone else gives it to you, there might be a reason why they're doing it. It might not be with pure intent. So you go into a dress shop or something and you're trying on dresses. The shop owner or whatever is like, you look great, you look amazing in that dress and that dress and that dress. And she's biased because she wants you to buy all of them. So that validation is great, but it's coming from someone with an agenda. Whereas your own self-praise and your own kind words to yourself is coming from no agenda other than yourself. So you get to choose the words also you tell yourself, you know, if you're creating your own affirmations, and it is bigger than affirmations. And this, one of the things, just to differentiate RTT or how I kind of do, is with affirmations to an extent, they're like, imagine a weed and you cut a weed. So you have an issue, you cut a weed, and then affirmations go on top, and then the root cause isn't got, so the weed might grow back. The difference between with RTT, you go in, you remove the weed, and then you put the kind of affirmations on top. Not saying that don't work, but that's kind of how that differentiates. But if you're in an RTC session and you're just going, it doesn't hurt to repeat those things, because 21 days is the time it scientifically takes to create a new habit. Tell yourself you're wonderful, you're lovable, you're good enough, you're successful, you're, you know, all the things you want to hear. There were things you were growing up that you wanted, you deserved to hear, that you probably didn't. There are words we wanted our parents to say. There are words probably we wanted to hear from guys or girls or whatever. Tell yourself those things. There's no difference. And choose the words you want and then repeat them. Like I say, do it in the shower, because you're not doing much else in there apart from sniffing the shower gel. And then just, you start your day in a better place. You'll find, and I was like, words do make such a big difference. And I said this to you earlier when we were talking about like nerves and excitement. They have exactly the same bodily reaction. The bodily reaction that you have with nerves and excitement is the same. Sweaty palms, you get red
palpitations.
Yeah, heart palpitations. You get a bit of a stomach ache, butterflies in your stomach. Exactly the same reaction for both. So the only reason it knows is because of what you're telling it. You're telling it you're excited, or you're telling it you're nervous. So try telling yourself better things. Tell yourself you're excited when you're nervous, or, those words shift how you feel about things. And when you shift how you feel, you shift how you act. Everything starts with a thought. If you have a thought, and then that thought has a feeling, it's always related to a feeling. That feeling has an action, and that action has an event. So you go down that road, and every thought you have, so if looping thoughts is something actually I speak about a lot, and it's quite a good one to use. So if you start with you're nervous about something, you've got anxiety. What's that feeling? Really angsty, negative, feeling a bit anxious, really. And then if you've got to do something, like you've got to present, and you're probably not going to be that good because you're going to be anxious. And then the outcome is you've not done very well. Or say you have a thought and you're like, I'm going to nail this. And then you feel confident. Your feeling is confident, I can do this. And then the action is you take action and you do a really good presentation, and then the outcome is you've done well. So it's like a looping thought, and then when you've done well, it solidifies that you're going to do it again, because you start to believe that you're actually going to do well because you've done it. So just start with a positive thought, even if it's like, just try to switch how you feel about something, because that thought creates a feeling, which creates a bodily reaction.
And I want to ask you about, so we're talking about self-praise, but what I'm curious to find out is, what is the difference between this self-praise, talking nicely about yourself, being kind to yourself, and then being conceited? So a lot of times people can misunderstand the two. So you have somebody who's super confident and you think, oh my God, they're so arrogant. So where does the line get drawn between conceited and just a confident person?
I would possibly say the line is drawn when you say it to yourself or you say it to other people. If you go and you're saying to yourself, I'm confident, I'm successful, I'm that, you're telling yourself. If you're going out there telling everybody, I'm the best, I'm successful, I'm confident, I'm this, that's probably quite a, the difference, because you're telling other people. And often when you're telling other people, it's because you don't really believe it yourself. A lot of really cocky people and putting it out there, because if they say it, then other people will believe it, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy with that.
Right. Clever.
Yeah. There's a whole thing about Muhammad Ali, he's the greatest. He said he was the greatest before he was the greatest. He was like, he was so determined. He was like, he didn't say I'm going to be the greatest. He said, I am the greatest. And he put the work in, he did it all, but he became the greatest. And it's that length of, first we make our beliefs when we're young, and then our beliefs make us. So let's like choose some good beliefs. Like let's try and switch it around a bit, have good thoughts.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, I wanted to ask you, how do we break free from what is weighing us down?
I guess it depends what's weighing you down in particular. In what general ways? What ways you?
So in the way that we're discussing, just people having these negative thoughts about themselves, and then for it to become so negative that it's crippling and it stops you from living your best life. So
one of the things one of the best bits of advice, and I would say for anyone who's watching this and is interested, to follow Marissa Peer, because she's amazing. I'm saying a small amount of like what she preaches and teaches. She's amazing. But one of the things that she says is to not let criticism in. Like, I can't remember who quoted it. I think it's Eleanor Roosevelt said something like, you can't allow anyone else to make you feel inadequate or something. You can't give anyone else the permission to make you feel inadequate, because if you let it in, but you choose what you let in, you choose what you don't let in. So I think the story I told my son, because he doesn't really understand this sort of stuff, so I go down to story, is a holy man was with a journalist, and the journalist didn't like the holy man at all, and he was giving him abuse, and he was kind of like saying some really crappy stuff to him, and the holy man just stood there smiling, and the journalist kept going and going at him, and being like, why do you think you're holy? What makes you better than me? What makes you better than anyone else? And the holy man just sat there smiling. And then the journalist said, I've said all this horrible stuff to you. Why haven't you reacted? And then the holy man goes, if I give you a gift, and the journalist said, yeah. And he says, and you don't take it. And he said, yeah. And he said, who's got the gift? He said, you. So if you don't accept the criticism, if you don't let it in, that stays with that person. And a lot of the time with criticism, and certainly when it comes to external sources, the person who's doing the critique is because they're most critical of themselves a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And that's always worth remembering. If how you feel about yourself comes from external sources, and you let that, just try not to let it in. Just don't let it in.
So in the same way, we talk about anger and resentment being really toxic to you, but doesn't affect the person that you are angry and resentful towards. So it's the same sort of concept, right?
Yeah. I mean, I practice forgiveness a lot, because I try, because forgiveness is never really for the person you're forgiving. It's for you to let it go. Like I do that a lot. I do a meditation every day by a guy called Vishen Lakhiani, which I would highly recommend to anyone. It's called the 6-phase meditation, and it goes through 6 different. It's scientifically proven to work, and it's based on the fact that the very first phase it's only 15 minutes. It sounds like it's a really long thing. It's 15 minutes, and my son does it. He's 8 years old, if he can do it.
Oh wow!
It's one of the things I instilled in him from an early age, being present. But this goes through 6 phases, and I'd recommend to anyone. The first phase is connection, because we all feel so disconnected from everyone in today's world, and especially like during COVID, and that I think it highlighted. We might be well connected on the internet, and that actual real connection, the way we feel. So the first stage goes through connections. You're connected to everything. The second phase is gratitude. So it's being grateful for 3 things about what's happened, about 3 things about yourself, and 3 things about your work or your job or whatever. And then it goes into the third phase, which is forgiveness. Because when you go through forgiveness, they did these experiments where they put all the electrodes on the head, and they did these experiments. I think it's called 7 years of sin or something. It was done through Mind Valley, which are an amazing company. But they did it, and what they found was that when you forgave, your brain level actually changed. Like, it was the most releasing thing, letting go of things, and they had to go through all these different things. So forgiveness has such a powerful effect. So when you go through forgiveness, it then goes on to in 3 years in the future. So you do a visual. So you do a visual of the future, and it takes you towards, and actually in like your future that you start to think of, your mind works. If you start to, whatever you focus on, you start to move towards. So it's that kind of manifestation, but bigger. Your mind actually does. When you put the intention, when you start to think about it, you look for other things that will get you there. So you start to focus on your future. And then the next one is you think of the perfect day. So you run through your day, and I'm not joking. Every day I run through my day, it happens as I've predicted. And then the final one is just connection to a greater power. So, you know, like if you believe in God, or if you believe in the universe, and it's just connected. It's a fully rounded thing. You wake up and you feel, I feel ready for my day. It's like, it just puts you in a really present moment. It gets you forward thinking, forward focused, connected, calm, all the things you want.
So if you're the kind of person that's struggled to forgive because either it's something that's like really deep, or you feel, you know, so wronged that it's really difficult to let go, what is your tip to somebody who's feeling that way? Because I mean, saying to somebody just let go, it's like saying to someone just stop stressing, and it's really difficult to you know, just stop like that.
It's a process. There was someone I had in my forgiveness profile for every day for about 2 months to get through it. But it's going through that stage of trying to see it a little bit from their point of view. I mean, when people do terrible things, it's not meaning you have to be okay with it, but they're doing it because they're pretty unhappy. No one does crappy stuff because they're really happy. And it's not meaning you have to be okay with it, but just, you know, they did it, they're in a bad place, and it's empowering. There is a state, I mean, obviously if you can't forgive and you can just cut it, but holding on, it's more the holding on to that bad feeling, that energetic energy even. It's like it's a bad, you know, it's not for you, you know what I mean? You're the one who's going to be stuck with that feeling. They don't, they've gone off and done whatever they have. So the only one who's losing is you.
Is there a subconscious tip or technique that you can use to help you to let go?
When I do it, I always use a lot of visualization. So I imagine a conversation between the two when I do it, and it's a conversation of why did you do this? And then I'm imagining, and your subconscious actually, because also when you meditate, you go to a lower brainwave state anyway, so it's that same sort of thing. You're not quite in theta, or actually some people can go to, but you can kind of have that conversation. And also, I mean, it's a lot what I do in RTT. If there's someone who, you know, abuse or things that have happened, it's letting that out and letting that go. And sometimes when you've had that conversation in your mind or in hypnosis, that's enough, because you don't need to have that conversation with them. But when you've had it and you've said all those things you wanted to say, because, you know, you've had it when, you know, I've had it when I've, you know, there's something that's happened and I've not been able to say my side of it. Sometimes you don't need to say everything. I mean, writing it down as well is a good one. Writing everything down on paper, a letter to them, this is what you did. But I think most powerful thing is, the most powerful words in the world are let go, and forgiveness comes under that as well.
That's, I mean, I think it's really powerful to learn how to do that, because so many of us struggle with things that we need to let go. You know, some that are just not that important, you know, and others that really cut deep. That, you know, writing a letter and then burning it because you don't ever so my tip would be to write a letter and then burn it, because everything that you've wanted to say to the person, you don't necessarily need to say it to them, because that's not going to get you anywhere anyway. But it helps you to release.
So it's getting it all out of you. It's like taking it out of you rather than all holding it inside, because there's, like, you know, one of the adages I use is the emotion that can't find itself through tears makes other organs weak. When you hold stuff in, when you don't let that emotion out, loads of stuff, like, you know, every thought has a biological reaction, and like stress is a massive factor. The stress doesn't just come by on its own. Your thoughts create the stress, and then has a reaction on the body. And
absolutely. And actually, I learned about that for the first time through Louise Hay. And I absolutely loved her. Just read all the books and just love the message, because we do create illnesses and dis-ease in our bodies through our thoughts and fears and worries. And I mean, cancers are known to be caused by all of that. So I also want to talk about limiting beliefs. So how do we find out where they come from? Like, I know we always talk about everything starting in childhood and then, you know, through your life experience, and but how do we figure out what our limiting beliefs are, and then how to rid ourselves of that so that we can live these healthy, happy lives?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I know, because with hypnosis, it's a very rapid way to find it and to discover where those blocks are. I'm just trying to think in more of a conscious way. I guess it's looking at the behavior that happens and what you're not liking, and then working back from there. So if you're, for example, you're not doing as well, you have a success block, like you're working and you're not getting the money you need, or like you kind of look at your behavior and try and work out what behaviors you have. I think that's the only way I can think to do it consciously, because subconsciously, for example, even like blocks can exist with everything, you know, with like confidence, with even with fertility. Like I had a lady who, she was 42. She'd been trying for 10 years naturally, and then she'd had 2 failed rounds of IVF, and she had what was called I was going to say undiagnosed. There was no reason for it. I can't remember the actual word. There's no reason for her being infertile. She was perfectly healthy. Her husband was fine. We did a session with her, and she went back, and the first scene she went back to was when she was she first got on her period. She was 12 years old, and she overheard a conversation between her dad and her uncle, and she overheard her dad saying, she's a woman now, she'd better not get pregnant, she'd better not have a child, she'd better not.
Wow.
So that went in the mind. She never thought of that conversation since consciously. She'd never even thought that affected her. And then, but that on its own probably wouldn't have done an awful lot. But then that, supported by the fact, she then, the next scene we went to, because I always go back to 3 or 4. The next one was she was at school, and her friend came on her period in white trousers, which is every girl's nightmare. And that oh my God, I don't want my period type thing came, and it was like that association again. And then the final time, I think she's about 32, and she was in work, and she was overlooked for a job by a man, like for a man, like a man took the job instead of her. And she had the whole thing where she was like, I don't want to be a woman. That was her like overriding thought that she'd been saying in her head. And those 3 things combined kind of reframed. But when she looked at them with fresh eyes, interrupted them, broke them, and then after a month later, she emailed me, and it was the nicest email, where she's like, I've had my round of IVF and I'm pregnant. I was like,
oh, amazing.
Because of those blocks, but they're blocks that she had no idea. She didn't even think that, they weren't even in her conscious mind. So it's very difficult, I think, sometimes to work out where the blocks do come from.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of the thing, like, there's this book called, especially with success, not that we're really developing on success, but confidence. I guess confidence can be a lot of unmet needs. If we were looking at confidence and self-esteem, or people at school, you know, like I used to have quite bad self-esteem issues, and I was very badly bullied when I was 6 or 7, and they like would bully me and say horrible things about my looks and stuff like that. And so I've always carried that, being like, oh, I'm never the pretty one, or, you know, I've never, because I'm always still that 7-year-old thinking all the things they said to me. Right. But that's kind of, you know, that you have all these things that happen that just create you, but it's very difficult consciously to work out where they could be, I think. Right.
So is there anyone that you would recommend not to have RTT, or is it for everyone?
It's for everyone. I mean, I wouldn't, we're not meant to work with anyone with schizophrenia, or because they're not in their own reality as such, so that wouldn't work so well. But pretty much anyone else, and for any issue really, any behavior. I had a woman, actually, she came to me to start with for what was it, something, I think it was PTSD she came for initially, and it worked so well. And so she came back to me and she's like, I really don't like cooking. She's like, but I really want to like cooking. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that, but I was like, I'll try. And it came back to the fact that when she was younger, she grew up in an Indian family, and the time it took away from that, and it was the role that was put on the women, and it was all of these blocks she'd had. So I switched it round and changed it so that she then associated cooking with the fact she was loving her body, she was creating something nutritious, she was taking the time for herself, and changed the narrative to her, which is very much what we do with RTT, change the narrative from being that really, you know, young, like illogical narrative that you create that doesn't really ring true, to a really strong one that you actually want to have your own kind of, your own future and your own the world you want as an adult.
Yeah. I mean, I've loved talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible. So the subconscious mind is extraordinary, and what we can do with our mind is so powerful. So Anna Lancaster Hedman, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much. Before we go, do you want to tell us tell the viewers where they can find you? And
yeah, well, I mean, I do what's called a discovery call. So if anyone wants to just have a talk and see if it's right for them, and I can talk them through it, it's non-obligational. It's just a chat, really, just to see if it would work for them, and they can ask any questions. But they can find me at annalancastertherapy.com or on Instagram at annalancastertherapy.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Anna, and I hope to have you back on the show talking more about the beautiful mind.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.